Hi, this is Lainey, and welcome to this new channel that my sister and I, Dara, have started called Momo and Pawpaw's House. Instead of doing some original content today, we thought we would show you a little brainstorming session that we scheduled today just to talk about what we would like to talk about on this channel. But we thought it might be interesting for you to just kind of see where our thoughts go, where our prayers go, where our minds go, because we're two different people and we have different ideas. But we thought we would just kind of show you the workings of what kind of goes on to even think about what's going to be the final product on a video on YouTube channels. This is just ours. This is just how we do it. But we thought it would be interesting for you to kind of see a little bit of the background. So I hope you enjoy it. We thank you for tuning in. Please like and please subscribe. When you like and subscribe and comment, it'll kick our videos out to the people that you already have like subscribing to your channel and things. So it helps us to get that content out there, especially when you're a new channel. You need that activity on your channel. So if you don't mind, please like and subscribe and please comment. There are going to be so many things come up in this part 1 and part 2 of this video that I think you will really be interested in. We talk about all kind of stuff. Stay tuned from the beginning to the very end of part 2, and you're liable to find something that you want to throw out a comment on, and we welcome it. We want to know what's on your mind, what bothers you in this world, what you might want us to talk about. We just kind of want this channel to be a dialogue place where you can get your thoughts out, where you can speak and be heard and just feel kind of comfortable. And my sister said something in the video that's going to kind of be our tagline for this channel. And it's going to be that everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. And when you're at Momo and Pawpaw's house, everything's going to be all right. Thank you for joining me. Please watch parts 1 and part 2 if you get time. Bye-bye. Welcome to Momo and Pawpaw's house, where everything is going to be all right.
Mama school, Mama pizza.
I just feel like I was actually sitting there praying before y'all got here and just saying, you know, help me, because I really do want this channel to kind of be different from my channel, and to kind of let God take this channel over in my mind is what I'm thinking, and speak through us. I'm not talking about preaching. I'm just talking about whatever happens, whatever direction we go. It could be something silly, it could be whatever, but whatever happens, kind of let him do some work through this channel is what I'm saying, to kind of speak to people, give them some hope, give them fun things. I notice a lot of people on channels that I watch, just cooking channels or homemaking channels, homesteading channels. I notice people in the comments saying, I watch your channel because it relaxes me, because with the stress in this world, I know I can always kind of tune into your channel and it brings me peace. And I'm noticing a lot of people saying that to certain people, that they really don't even care what they're talking about or what they're cooking or what they're doing. It's like people need safe, peaceful channels to fall back on. And I kind of thought, well, that's kind of what I wouldn't mind ours being. I can get razzed up about stuff. I can get angry about some things. I can get very fearful about some things. But in the end, how does God want us to filter that through what we say out loud? And I don't think a lot of hollering and screaming, a lot of confrontation is what he wants.
Well, we're not that by nature.
No, I'm probably the opposite of that by nature.
Right.
I get mad in my head, but I don't like to fight with people out loud.
Correct.
I think we kind of even...
I feel like I have the gift of discernment, but I'm not good at voicing what's actually on my mind in many different situations. That's not a negative in my sense, because in my case, in some cases, it's been a plus in that it's helped me to keep my mouth shut when I needed to keep my mouth shut in situations.
What do they call it? Like you said, discernment.
Discernment.
Yeah.
Yes, but
Not everything we think has to come flying out our mouth.
Right.
However, I was going to say, this channel could be a good place to filter out some of those feelings, though, because sometimes I don't say things, but it bottles up in here, you know, and I might feel angry inside, even though I'm smiling on the outside.
Yes.
But maybe if we take, okay, well, what was it we heard that was bothering us? What was it going on in the world that was bothering us? Maybe if we take all these thoughts, instead of letting them eat us up from the inside out, we say, okay, how can we address it in the world? What does that look like? And it may look like an action we do, or it may look like a road trip we take, but we're really dealing with an emotion we might have inside. Because if we bottle it all up, that's not a good thing either. You know, some people just let it out and they're done and they're over with. I hang on to it for a long, long time sometimes. You know, what do you think?
Back when I was in my younger days, early 20s, I discovered the Serenity Prayer as a result of something that we were dealing with a family member, and I've just encompassed that prayer and held that prayer close my whole life, because when I don't have anything that I know to pray, I revert back to that prayer, and it's, you know, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So in order to lower my stress level, sometimes I have to say, Dara, you can't really do anything about that right now.
Yeah.
You know, what can you do about a situation? If it's something as simple as going out and buying 5 cans of green beans, I might have
sometimes I do that
lowered
too,
my
just
stress
to lower that
level
fear level.
and the wisdom to know the difference between what I can control right now and what I can't. So that's just been a prayer that's been close to my heart. Sometimes the minute I wake up and my head's on my pillow, I'll say that prayer just as comfort, knowing I've said that, I've asked God of that, just to get me through the day. And many times, as many people say, the day we plan for ourselves is not always the day that God had planned for us, you know, in certain situations. And like you know,
I have to roll with things.
Yeah.
Because if we don't learn to roll with things, then that means we're trying to control everything.
Right.
And I think we can even add stress to our life when we try to control everything.
Right.
You know.
So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we've all been around people who try to control everything, and those people wear me out.
Yeah.
And I think if I try to be that way, I'm going to wear myself out.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot control everything. I can't.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like you said though, okay, say 5 seconds before you went to bed, you happened to see something on a news flash, and it just tore you up inside, just a death or what, you know. We kind of go to bed, we might pray about it and everything, but we're thinking about that, and then you wake up in the morning and you might have forgot about it technically, but you wake up that morning, you're quiet, you know, it's there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I'm wanting to maybe do with this channel, is some of those things that we don't feel like we have any control over, because we don't, you know, we don't, but we are subject to them because we hear about them,
Mm-hmm.
because we know other people. I don't know why, but I'm sitting here, and I didn't mean to think of Israel and like that Hamas attack, but that's the example that keeps coming in my mind while I'm even saying this. Okay, say you hear about what's going on with the Hamas attack. We're over here on this side of the world, whole different hemisphere. We can't do anything. We can't help them. We can't control it. We don't even really know what truth is. You know, as the weeks have rolled out, some of what we were hearing wasn't even factual with, as far as who was shooting at who, and you know, we're powerless, but yet it's still there. I still have this big worry in my mind. There's still prisoners. And then in the meantime, Israel's attacking the Palestinians, which I for children's sake everywhere, I don't want to see any of that happen, you know. And then the media starts pulling people, well, you need to be this way, or you need to be pro this or pro that. No, in my mind, I don't say it out loud. I'm like you. I haven't done a video about it. A lot of people have done tons of videos about all this stuff. I don't do videos about things like that. But in between my gardening, my cooking, my family life, things like that are on my mind. And it's like, how to channel some of that so that I can feel like, no, I can't control it, but what can I put out into the world that might be a positive to help with it, that God can use and throw out there however he wants to. And maybe, that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't have to be every situation that comes up. I just don't, there's just too much in this world now for us to think we can delve into it. And I don't even want to delve as far as researching or anything. I'm talking about just actually, even just saying the things we're saying now. We're not 100% pro this side or pro that side. Where is the humanity? Where is the middle? And I would like to say things, it goes on YouTube, but unless you get your channel taken away, it stays out there in the world for months and years. You can't control your video once it's out there. And if those words will go out there, and at some point the right person hears things, or put a message out there that tells our leaders, we're not happy with any of you in this situation. I just heard, I think it was before I went to bed last night, that Israel had gave Palestinian 1.1 million people 24 hours to get out of their country. How does that work in 24 hours? It confuses me. So I wake up this morning thinking about that. I wake up in my beautiful house and my beautiful piece of property, and I go eat a great breakfast, and I'm thinking, what are these people doing right now? And yet they're still prisoners from Israel that are still trapped in all that. Where are they? So I want to give it to God, but I also kind of want to say things into the world as far as these videos that will go out there at some point, and people can do what they want with them, and say to our world leaders, enough, enough. Well, we're parents and grandparents, and we're looking at this saying there's no reason for any of it.
One thing I'm going to do, I had begun doing after a suggestion from you. I had never, until after the election of 2020, I had never written a public official.
Yeah.
So I wrote two of my senators. Well, we have two senators. First time I have ever written any correspondence to senators, and it was because of a suggestion that you made.
I was doing
and
it
you
there
said
for a while.
that Senate offices or House of Representative offices, etc., they may have clerks that are taking these pieces of correspondence and reading them, and in your mind you felt like there may be less correspondence than we think. So if an office per se got 50 letters all leaning the same way out of maybe a total of 75 that they got, they might take the views of their constituents to the representative or the senator and say, look, this is the way the wind is blowing with your constituency. So I did get the courage to write both of my my senators that are in Washington. Got a response from one that I didn't agree with, and got a very nice response from a second one. But I can do that in a nice way. I felt like my correspondence was very polite, but factual. And so that's one thing that I feel like I need to start doing again. And I was talking with a colleague who said that she writes letters a good bit. We're on two different.
Well, I don't want to take credit for that. I do remember talking about that.
You told me that, yeah.
Well, I was listening years ago to Dr. Janet Smith, who is pro-life. She's a doctor, but she's very pro-life. And she was saying that, and it always stuck with me what she said, because she was saying that she had a friend who worked in a legislative office, and they said that sometimes, even for major legislation that was life or death, they might only get 50 letters
Yeah, that's,
or whatever.
yeah.
And she was saying that they literally, those 50 letters, you know, if they were from real constituents that showed up in their database, or if you did it online, and if those letters all kind of swung one way, they would take that to mean people in our district are passionate about it, and they want it to go this way. And a lot of times that legislator would vote that way because of the wave of little comments he was getting.
Right.
And yeah, I don't think we realize our power. I think we're tired of seeing people not get listened to. You know, we watched all these wonderful people, you know, go up in front of school boards and talk, and were articulate and passionate, were protecting their children, were doing their due diligence by standing against the wall until they got, you know, called up there for their 3 minutes, you know, before a bell would ring to run them off. I think the whole process is kind of inhumane, but they were doing that, and then nothing was changing, and then you find out they were on lists from the Department of Justice, you know, to be investigated. And so I think people just started realizing or thinking that there's no reason to do all this because we're going to get targeted. We're going to, you know, you got to do it anyway. And I'm no, you know, Richard was watching Braveheart this morning. I'm no William Wallace, you know. I'm no William Wallace, you know, but I'm having more and more trouble looking at my grandkids and having fear. I'm getting more and more to where if we don't step up and we don't talk about things and let people know we're not happy with them, you know, then shame on us, really. I'm just starting to feel that way.
Well,
And-
many times they say just your presence at a certain meeting is sometimes enough. You have to say nothing because there are so many meetings that happen where the public just does not attend.
Right.
And so when there's a show of more than, you know, one person in the audience,
10 people show up.
10 people
They feel a
show
little
up and
intimidated.
simply sit down and listen quietly, sometimes that's even profound. And I've never really focused on the local level. That's my intention in the future, is to start attending some of our council meetings, possibly some school board meetings,
Yeah.
and just listen and try to understand the lay of the land and where they're coming from. But just my presence might have some type of an effect, you know, on at least making board members or council members or our representatives use a little bit more discernment when it comes time for them to vote.
I think we always think
you
for some
know.
reason they're smarter than us, but they're not.
They're human.
They're human, but they're not necessarily smarter than us. They are just doing it, whereas we're not, you know, as far as they ran for this office, whereas I haven't ever run for an office. But, and I admire them for doing that, don't get me wrong, but that doesn't mean they're voting how I want them to vote. But I think I've lost, well, some people do this early on in life, but it took me a while. But I've realized as I got older and as I did things and worked in different situations that I'm just as smart as a lot of the top echelon people. You know, I just didn't have the same goals they had. They did the right things to get where they are, but they're not necessarily smarter than we are. And we have to quit looking at people in all these public offices as being some kind of above us, you know, and they're not, you know.
That's not the way our Constitution is.
It's not the way it's set up, but we have come
Yeah.
to feel that way. We have come to feel that way, and to a certain extent, there's probably for their safety. I'm not saying it's a horrible thing, but to a certain extent, there's a wall around a lot of those people now. We don't see them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like John Kennedy, our senator from Louisiana. I've never seen him. he's never come to our town that I know of.
Mhm.
You know, I've never met him. I've never even seen him. I've never heard of him being around here at, you know, a high school gym talking or anything. You know, it's like there's a certain wall around these people that all we see are what's coming to us off the TV.
Mhm.
And so we just assume. I mean, they're riding around in limos all day and there's something big wig. Whereas that might not be how he's doing it every day, but I'm just saying, we kind of just assume there's this level of how they are living and that they have all these contacts and they might, but they're not necessarily any better or smarter than us. And for the sake of our kids, we have to start interacting with these people as if they work for us. You can put me on a list if you want. I'm probably already on one. I was thinking about, well, my Twitter account was banned, so you know I wasn't even ugly on it or anything, but I was passionate about my beliefs, and I got knocked off of Twitter when it was Twitter, before Elon got on there. And I even thought, you know, like say a video will come up on YouTube and it'll ask you, is this video a good recommendation for you? Do you ever get that?
Sometimes,
It'll
yes.
just be, it could be Patera, it could be any of the videos. And they'll come up and say, is this video a good recommendation for you? And of course, if it is, you know, I'll say excellent or whatever. But that's their way also of pigeonholing us. So probably, you know, and my content and on my other Hilltop Home Place channel and things we do in our life where we spend our money, all, you know, they say the big commodity now is not oil and gas, it's our data, you know. So okay, if I'm somewhere with them collecting data on me, does she swing left or right? She swings right. You know, they know. So if I'm going to be targeted, I'm already being targeted. You know, right now they might say, well, we're just targeting you to sell you things or whatever, but
Yeah.
in the end, where does this
I
information
get
go?
tickled because
I'll be
my
targeted.
profile
Why
when
not
I was
go
going to
out
show
with a bang?
up, I watch videos on how to build rocket stoves and how to make outdoor showers with garden sprayers.
They'll say she's either a prepper or she's poor. Yeah, but that's the thing, is we're being pigeonholed one way or the other. You know, you're a right wing extremist. You know, it's like whatever. You know, we've got to just start saying pigeonhole me.
I have a
Knock
lot of
yourself out.
interest. I try to look at all kinds of things, from real estate to prepping to gardening to news outlets and such. So I try to look at a variety, which leads me in specifically talking about news outlets. I watch a variety of news outlets and try to get news or information in any way that I can. And the thing that scares me most is what our news outlets don't report on, as opposed to you know, what the truth is.
Because we know
and so
something
I
happened
know
and they don't even mention
I
it.
can watch a news outlet and realize I don't need to be watching this news outlet anymore because they do not speak about the true or truth or the true news at hand that they should be reporting on, what actually happened in a situation. And so I find something else until I realize that they're not speaking about what they should also. And it's not that they should speak about what I think they should, but if we know an incident has happened and then an outlet just totally ignores an incident
or ignores evidence in a case to make the case worse than it is.
I try to search for a new source of information, and so that's an ongoing battle.
I think a lot of them too, like our local news channels can make the older people in our community very frightened and stuff and feeling like they need to do medical things, and you know, it's like I noticed that, and I always think to myself, they get sponsorship money from pharmaceutical companies, you know, and then yet our own mother and stuff can get all paranoid after watching them, and it's like, I guess if I could wear a t-shirt every day that says it's just stop manipulating us, you know, just stop propagandizing us, stop manipulating us, and let's just all deal with each other on as human beings, you know.
Deal with the truth.
Well,
Mhm.
I was a human resources assistant when I first went back to work. That's the job I got. And I enjoyed the job and everything, but I had to do a lot of webinars and a lot of watching of things to, you know, my boss wanted me to, but also I was trying to just learn that world.
Mhm.
So during my lunch breaks, instead of going talking and stuff, I would watch videos and webinars and stuff. And everything we were referred to in this world, anybody working, as human capital. Just how to maintain your human capital, how to streamline your human capital, and I hated that terminology because it never said just say employees, you know, but it was like employees was a passé word they didn't want to use anymore. It was human capital, and you had to call everybody human capital. And I said something to my boss one day about it, and she was like, that's just the way it is. Deal with it. You know? And I was like, I can't deal with it. To me, it would give guidelines on if you do X, Y, and Z, this is how your human capital will now be monitored and maintained. And I was like, but we're human beings. You know, you have a company here of human beings. I understand you have to have special practices maybe for these companies to get them to operate efficiently. But when you stop looking at your people as people and parents, and I have so many people that work for me that are parents. I have so many people that work for me that are grandparents. I have people that drive 60 miles to get here every day. You know, it's like when you stop looking at all that and you just start seeing them as these machines that you need to program a certain way to function a certain way because that's your capital. And, you know, then you've lost a vision of your people. And I do believe that our government has lost a vision of us as people, you know, as just, we've become, maybe they don't refer to us as human capital because we're technically not working all for the government, but I do believe we are blobs of demographics for them.
Mhm.
I'll just be controversial in saying this, but I hate when I hear the words black community. Black, there are millions of black people all over America, and they think differently, and they live differently, and they are raised and choose to live all in different cities and places. To me, when you blob everybody into one little, you know, description, you're losing sight of their differences and their unique characteristics and their unique talents. And I think that's how I felt when I would hear the word human capital. You know, it's just like, don't blob everybody into this one thing. You know, treat us as human beings, as individuals. And I think our government, to me, is forgetting how good we are. They're forgetting. They're just thinking, how do we manage these people? If we, talking about the news is what brought this up. If X happened, but if we go on the news tonight across all our stations on the news that we control, you know, just a couple of companies control all our news, if we send out the message to nix that and talk about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, that, or something silly, you know, is what I'm saying, then we'll tamp this down and we'll, you know, so it's like we're just being controlled. Have faith in us that we can hear about this and throw in your little fluff story too, and we can discern what's, you know, I'm tired of being led, you know. It's like I was saying, stop manipulating me. I need to get myself t-shirts. I used to design t-shirts. That's what I did. I need to design myself some t-shirts and just walk around with those on when I go to town, because it's just like, stop propagandizing us, stop manipulating us. And maybe through this channel, that's one of the things maybe I'm saying, through this channel, some of those types of messages can get out there to the world, because I think a lot of people think what we think. They're just scared to say it, or they don't have a platform to say it. You know, I've got a small little gardening, homesteading channel, whatever, but I still feel like words mean something, and sometimes things I plan don't really get a lot of views, and some incidental thing I might say in a video, that's what all the comments are about. So it's like, you don't really know. You just have to do your best and put things out there, and then allow God to take it and go with it however he wants to, you know. And what were you talking about a while ago? Your different interests. And see, my channel is kind of like that on Hilltop Home Place. I'm not all about, let me teach you how to garden every day, because my interests are all over the place.
Well,
so it just has to be me. My channel just
I
has to
love
be
to
me.
watch travel videos. I'm really big on people who visit state parks and report on state parks. I like to look at videos on different heat sources. Should our power grid go out?
Yeah.
I like to look at videos on how to deal with hygiene, outdoor showers. Like I said, outdoor shower built with a garden sprayer. Hundreds of videos on things like that. Rocket stoves, gardening,
Yeah.
various types of seeds. Hunting, fishing videos. I love fishing videos. And
While you're saying that, you're talking about practical. Okay, but see, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just thinking, a lot of times, things like you were telling me a while ago about Daryl hooking you up the water hose shower. Y'all spent the first weekend at the camp up in Mississippi, and you were able to take showers, cold ones, because we didn't have any sun, but with the garden hose. But a lot of people would take that and do a video that's more prepping and stuff. But what if this video could be a little bit more relaxed, but just talking about how here's just a simple option in an emergency, you know?
Right.
Not to scare everybody to death. If I'm not calling us old, but if old women can do this, you can do it too. You know, because a lot of times it's ex-military doing some of these videos and stuff. You know, we're not ex-military. I've never slept a night out of a bed, you know. But you know, that's what I'm saying. Take some of those practical, I call them practical things, practical tips, and you are interested in a lot of that. And maybe on our channel weave those things in, but in a non-threatening, not in scary way, as far as just, and you suggested to me, because I've said when Richard sits outside in the summer, or when he rides his golf cart in the summer, when the humidity's terrible and everything, he is sopping wet, sweaty mess when I get him off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to get him in the house and straight to the bathtub. And you were saying that might be maybe a way I could set it up to hose him off outside.
You see, you're
know?
a builder. You could create some type of a small privacy screen, shower stall, whatever. You could let us whip up a garden sprayer shower. It has a lot of pressure. It only took 2 pumpings for me to get a very good shower out of both washing hair as well as bathing. And you could, because you can build, you could set up something like that outside your house, which would help you in the afternoons when Richard is finished riding in the golf cart.
Because I have to stop everything I'm doing when he's like that and come inside and get us set up for a bath, and you know, and supper has to wait, everything has to wait. So it might be a good idea if somehow I could just deal with it outside in a quick way and get him inside.
Right. I watch videos on the housing market, on tips for young people.
Yeah.
I have a son who's 32 years old who at this point in time had sold a house, but because of the ridiculous nature of the housing market is having difficulty finding something that he could afford, and he makes a good wage. Yeah. I watch videos on how to prepare bug out bags. Some people are very precise and they're wonderful bags, but I took an idea that I got and developed bug out bags for my elderly mother and 2 uncles that encompassed 5 days of food at the very least. They could probably have made it or make it stretch to 7 days. But what I prepared came about as a culmination of watching a number of different videos on the same topic. I watch videos on how to care for the elderly, how to deal with Social Security, how to deal with Medicaid, if that were to
Yeah.
ever
I watch
come
those
up,
too.
caregiving, videos on the shelf life of food. You know, if our food is given a best by date, but no, usually many times that's not a date that's what would you call it, a true deadline. You know, right? I have
Yeah.
spaghetti that I bought in 2020 that's done fine on the shelf that we're even eating right now. But little things like that. I mean, I used the channel for all kinds of interest, and really centered on things that bother me.
Yeah. Well, I took your idea about, you had done the bug out bags for Mama and some of our uncles, and at Christmas time, I went out and bought just at dollar store. The bags were $4.99, no problem, and I filled the bags for my son, his girlfriend, and my daughter and her husband. So I did 4 bags, and just filled them in there with things from dollar store and all that. I felt like they can use should they get stuck on an interstate somewhere for hours in traffic. It doesn't have to be a bad situation, but if my daughter is sitting there stuck in traffic with my grandbabies or something, you know, it's like, it's some things in there that could help her. Wipes, you know, some snacks, some bottles of water, some bottles of apple juice, and things like that. And then I had other things in there too that could help them in a worse situation, you know, and if they needed some protection items and things, I put in there. But I was gonna, and then you got that the other day, and I'm gonna fill that because my oldest granddaughter is fixing to be driving, so I was gonna do her one to put in her car, you know, once she starts driving later this year. So yeah, but that's a good idea for a video.
Well, and on that same line this morning, I got to thinking about things, and I even teared up because I'm trying to think of things. What would I do if I had to leave suddenly? And then I thought, I've already been through that.
Yeah.
Back in 2016,
What did you not have then?
when our region had a massive flooding, I had to leave my house within about a 15-minute window because the water was coming up. And I quickly took pictures of my house. I gathered some important papers. I gathered 5 buckets of food I had bought at Walmart the year before, and some water. And that's it. I realized now I forgot clothes, I forgot toiletries and other things. And we rode around for 5 hours not knowing where we would land until my daughter, through social media, found someone to give us directions to get to the relative of a neighbor house. And then you all, by the grace of God, were with my mother, our mother, and 8 family members happened to be with her. And by the grace of God, you all got out, and you were the last one who made it over a river, a bridge, just before they closed the bridge, and there were already cars that had flipped over.
I know.
And it was a nightmare, but you had to spend 3 days away from your home.
Wearing
Just
2 shirts.
just in a nutshell, I was counting up, we had roughly 12 houses of both of our extended family members, and all houses but 4 flooded in our orbit. And I just feel like, you know, that was a blessing, and that my house ended up not flooding, neither did yours, as well as one other. And thank God, because we were able to house and help our extended family members. But we have had to leave suddenly, and
Yeah. And when I
I guess to summarize, when you're going through this ordeal, you have only yourself to really deal with. The government was overwhelmed and couldn't help.
and everybody
either.
we knew, I
You
was on
know.
the phone with a friend of mine that Friday morning, and she told me she thought her house was fixing to flood. And
Yeah.
I was sitting with Mama because she had just got out of the hospital, and I told that friend, you know, I'm so sorry this is happening. As soon as, if it does, we will come help you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we didn't, because we didn't in my house, but where I was sitting that day, my mama's ended up flooding.
Yeah.
everybody's flooded. My church flooded, our bank's flooded, and everything. That might be a good video that we could discuss that, because it was a situation, like you said, where, okay, our houses didn't flood, but everybody around us flooded, you know, in our family. So our houses became hotels. So what did we need at our houses to help people out?
Exactly.
I was with Mama. We had to evacuate out of Denham Springs to Baton Rouge. But while I was there, it was even getting worse and worse. My daughter's house flooded. Once I was in Baton Rouge, my daughter's house flooded and everything, and it was just getting horrible where we lived. So while I was in Baton Rouge, I loaded my vehicle down with food. I went to a grocery store there and loaded the vehicle down. And thank goodness I did that, because once we did get home, our house became a hotel. And we had people sleeping in every bedroom, and y'all put y'all's camper on our carport, and people were sleeping there, and all that food I had to feed people for days and days and days, and you were doing the same thing.
So I use that as a frame of reference as I look at what's going in the world right now. I use that as a frame of reference. Okay, what would I do differently now than what I did back in 2016?
You know, a lot of people,
and
people that put back food and stuff get chided, I guess you would say, because people will say, well, you can't eat all that, or you don't ever know really what's going to happen. That flood happened. Thank goodness. I bought food in Baton Rouge, but I also had already started prepping and things. So I had all of it together, which fed a house full of people every night for weeks. And I didn't know that was going to happen, but I had it. By the grace of God, I had not laughed it off, and I had bought food and stuff. Then my husband has a stroke. And in one day, he goes from being gainfully employed and making a salary to short-term disability, you know. And I can't work anymore full-time, you know, because of him. And so all of a sudden, though, I wasn't as stressed as I should have been, I guess, because I knew I had tons of food at my house. I could just immediately cut off grocery spending if I needed to, other than say milk or stuff like that. So it wasn't like, oh, this happened and I still need to go feed us every week by spending. I didn't have to spend. And then while he was still in that rehab hospital, he hadn't even come home from the hospital yet, we had an ice storm. And your electricity went out. I had a generator. Ours stayed on because I had a generator. Y'all's went out. You said your house got down to 46 degrees. Nobody could go anywhere, but we had food. You know, we had food. Y'all didn't starve to death. You know, your house was cold, but y'all didn't starve to death. And so when people chide you for preparing and thinking, don't listen to it. Just, you know, and I'm always able to tell people now, well, thank goodness I had food when the flood happened. Thank goodness I had food when Richard had a stroke. Thank goodness I had food, you know, when the ice storm
we only had one small space heater during the ice storm. My house stayed in the 46 to 59 degree range the entire 5 days. We could not
That was when Texas freeze was happening. Yeah, that was when we were having it too.
We got it too, and I swore never again will I be cold. So I've found alternative forms of heat. To not have to rely on even my generator for electricity.
And you have done good research and all that stuff and getting it and stuff.